killed. I mean, the cop in you does what?
Well, Mary, I've been trying to actually search for words to describe how I feel, and it's very, very difficult. The one word that keeps coming back through my mind is despicable.
Yep.
Just an absolutely despicable act of cowardice, of being heinous. And it's hard for me to express myself about it because I feel so strongly about it. So not only did this guy murder, and that's what it was.
Yes.
He committed an act of murder. And the thing that makes it even worse, you had at least 3 other police officers that were there that are actually bound by law to intervene.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did Chauvin commit an act of murder, but the other 3 were complicit because they didn't do anything to stop it,
yep.
which they are obligated to do.
Yep.
So it's caused just devastation, obviously for the victim and obviously for his family. It's put a stain on all of us who carry our badge and as proudly as we do. And it's just a devastating situation, and the backlash that's occurring across the country,
yes,
putting other civilians and law enforcement people at risk because of the anger all of this has generated, and rightfully so. But it's just a tragedy for our country, all because of a terrible, terrible criminal decision. I wonder what was going through that Chauvin guy's head.
I don't think much,
what
Lee.
was going through those other officers' head while they were sitting there witnessing.
They were just standing around like la-di-da, la-di-da, another day at the office. But
I'll
also,
just sit here until he gets through killing this guy.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what was going through their heads.
But doesn't it break your...
Despicable is the only word I can come up with.
But despicable, too, doesn't it break your heart when you see the officers under attack? It's like, hey, wait a minute, no. No.
Well, that's the other.
There's the other side of it.
Yeah, I think the last time I did a little research, there was 18,000 independent police jurisdictions in the United States of America, and all of them operate independent of each other. So it's unfair for a police officer in Atlanta, for instance, to be out there trying to keep control of a violent rioting situation because of something that somebody in Minnesota did that they didn't have anything to do with. Me, myself, I've never even been to Minnesota.
Right.
And I don't claim idiotic, despicable police behavior.
Well, Lee, I think sadly it has devolved into an excuse for the bad guys, whoever you want to say they're Antifa or whatever, for them to just wreak havoc on this country. I mean, we all want people, of course, to peacefully protest and peacefully demonstrate for George Floyd and his family. Of course, there's except for one person, that clown down in Petal, Mississippi. That's the only person I've ever heard say anything negative about the situation. You know who I'm talking about? That mayor down there. Yeah. So, but the bad guys, the rioters, the rent-a-rioters, as I call them, because they're paid to do this, they wait and then they attack and they do things that they probably don't even know who George Floyd is. And that's the scary thing when I think about what if they came here, Lee? What if they came here? How do you assess the way law enforcement around the country has been responding to them?
I think, to be honest with you, in some places, and my viewpoint comes strictly from CNN and MSNBC and CBS News and NBC News. So based just on what I see, a lot of these police departments have handled themselves very well. But on the other hand, some of them have been just overwhelmed strictly by the volume of individuals participating in some of these demonstrations.
Yeah,
and I agree with you. I think the majority of folks that go out and demonstrate and exercise their rights as American citizens to do so, their efforts have been hijacked by these violent individuals who will go into these neighborhoods across the country and burn and loot businesses.
Yep.
And my question again is, what did that business owner have to do with what occurred in Minnesota?
Exactly.
So
it doesn't.
That's the answer. So why punish somebody? And of course, some of these larger businesses, they got insurance; they'll probably be able to recover. But these smaller mom and pop places, especially, and it's not right to burn and loot any business, and it has nothing to do with what happened in Minnesota, and actually is doing a lot of damage to those who simply want to exercise their frustration by demonstrating, which is their right as an American citizen to do.
And the Floyd family is pleading for people not to do that. That doesn't have anything to do with George Floyd's memory. Remember George Floyd? You've seen that. Well, so my question is, and I'm not fomenting, but what if? What if these people decide, oh, wow, we've been to every other city. We need to, a lot of the lower tier in the country cities have not been affected by this. Dallas has, Miami has, but in between there, and Nashville. But so far, we're pretty lucky. Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, we've been lucky. And I hope we can be lucky. But if we're not, have you been in touch with the governor's office for any kind of contingency plans?
I haven't spoken with the governor's office, no, but I have spoken with the colonel from the Mississippi Highway Patrol. In fact, we talked yesterday, and I'm in constant contact with the JPD.
Oh yes.
So this gives me an opportunity, and I hope you let me, to commend the demonstrators that we have seen in downtown Jackson. They've been orderly. They've been peaceful, and I commend the organizers and the participants. So, to be honest with you, Mary, it's a day-by-day thing. What you said, what you alluded to, could certainly happen here, but we haven't seen any signs of it yet. And again, I'm in contact with the JPD chief as well as Colonel Gilliard from the Mississippi Highway Patrol. We talked yesterday.
Well, what about the other sheriffs in our area? And what about if it's going to be anything to do with military? I think it would start first with the Mississippi National Guard, or would that all come through the governor's office on down to you sheriffs, or how would that work?
That would work. The National Guard works for the governor.
Yeah. So.
And so that would start with him and his office. But let's just hope and pray that we don't get to that point.
Well, the other thing is, if the big military, the regular military, the regular army, not the National Guard, what in the world would happen? How would you handle it if the military would be sent here? Is there a protocol for that? Like if they were sent here, who has precedent over decision-making? Who has the command order? If the military is here, do you yield to them? Do they yield to you as the sheriff of Hinds County? How does that work?
My understanding of it is if it got bad enough for the military to intervene, the military would not answer to me. The military would answer to the military leaders. The military leaders would answer to the proper civilian authority, which at that point would probably be the governor of the state of Mississippi.
Well, if something happens here, though, in Hinds County, are you supposed to then stand down or take orders from them?
Well, what would happen is that, again, if it got to the point to where military intervention was necessary, the military would take over.
Okay.
I have no status in the military. I have no training in the military, never been in the military. But what we usually will do, and this is the other point I was going to make, we would have what they call a unified command function, where we as leaders of law enforcement would all come together along with military leaders, and strategies would be planned, and we would come together so everybody would be on the same page as it relates to implementing those strategies. But no, the military would not answer to me. They would answer to military leaders who would answer to the civilian authority, and that would be the governor. Oh,
and so, okay. Well, folks, Lee Vance has a soft voice, but he's not a pushover. I'll tell you that. It's like, well, doesn't he come off as Mr. Nice Guy? And you are a nice guy. But when it's time to be tough, Lee, there's a time to be tough with these people. I mean, I'm not talking about the ones we have now. I'm talking about the ones out there that are causing all the trouble. There's a time to be tough with them, and there's a time to back off. I'm not, when would you determine, hey, enough of this is enough? It's time to get tough with them. And getting tough with them means what? Getting physical? Does it mean tear gas? Does it mean rounding them up? What does it mean?
It's kind of hard for me to say, because you have to deal with situations, the ones that are presented to you. We would be prepared to do what we needed to do to keep or get or maintain law and order in Hinds County. From where I stand,
mm-hmm.
We'd be prepared to reach out to whatever resource we needed to help us if we needed that. So we're prepared. What I'm just hoping is that we don't have to get to that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Those are ugly situations that are playing out across the country.
And that's the thing that's
right.
scary, Lee, though. That's what's scary.
Yeah.
Right. It's there. And like, oh, we're so safe here in Mississippi. Well, let's hope and pray. Let's hope they don't know us. Let's hope they don't see us here, right? But
right.
if they do, then you got to be ready. I mean, I'm sure you drilled and have maneuvers, and I'm sure you have procedures in place that, hey, ladies and gentlemen, if they come here, this is what we need to do. Don't you?
Well, we do, Mary, and that's why I guess I'm being somewhat evasive.
Right, I know.
You don't really want to talk about strategy.
Right. But safe it to say.
All the things that you would employ during an actual situation. We usually try to keep our tactics pretty close to the vest.
Sure, of course.
But I would say again to people that are listening to this show that, number one, we hope that the demonstrations remain peaceful. Number two, we've reached out to the appropriate authorities that we need to be on the same page with. And number three, this is a day-by-day situation, but we will be prepared. We are prepared to do the best we can to maintain law and order in Hinds County.
And I'm sure that goes for all of our counties. As I don't live in Hinds County, but wherever I live, doesn't matter. I want to know that my sheriff or my chief of police is going to protect me, not them. I want you to protect me, and whatever you have to do to protect me, that's me generally. That's what's important. Right? I mean, that's what you got to do. Well, I'm not even going to ask. I know you met with the Board of Supervisors. I know you got stuff to do with the detention center. We're not even going to go into that today. We'll do that. No,
that's the other headache.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll do. And whenever you want to come and talk about that, we'll be glad to do that. But I just wanted to deal with this today because, goodness sakes, it's dominating everything we do. I mean, forget about the virus for the moment. And I know you're dealing with that, too, in the department. You have to worry about that, too. But, the violence and everything like that. You're a cool cucumber, Sheriff Vance. And well, you are. And I thank you so much for taking time out to be with us this morning, Lee.
Thank you so much, Mary.
You have a good day. And good luck.
Care.
You, too. And I know that he's going to be coming to talk with us eventually. We'll talk about the